everybody. Good morning. My name's Chris. I'm the area lead for charity called Andy's Man Club, Midlands area lead. Just a quick show of hands. Who's heard of us before? A few of you. So for those that don't know, we're a men's peer-to-peer support charity, a suicide prevention charity for any man over the age of 18. So what you're going to hear is quite difficult potentially. I don't presume to know what you've all been through in your own lives, so if you are uncomfortable with anything, please feel free to step outside. I know some of you might only be here for the cake and the chocolate, but that's fine too. Going to ask you all a question. I'm not going to pick on anyone, so please be honest. Who's been through a difficult time in their life? Who's struggled with anything at all? It could be pressures at work, pressures at home, work pressures. A lot of you. If you've not got your hand up, I don't believe you. I think we've all struggled with something at one time or another. There is a stigma when it comes to men feeling that they can't speak out and talk about the difficulties they're going through. Going to rephrase that question. Who's been through a difficult time and not felt able to talk to anybody about it? They've kept it to themselves and they've sat with it. There's a few more of hands creeping up in the air there. Thank you for your honesty, really appreciate it. One man who very sadly didn't speak out, he didn't talk about his struggles, was a young man by the name of Andy Roberts. So he is the Andy in Andy's Man Club. Andy very tragically took his own life at the age of just 23. Came as a complete shock to his friends and to his family. They had no idea he was struggling at all. He was a Manchester United fan. That's a quote from his mum Elaine, once a devil, always a devil. And I'm going to play you a little video. Didn't know Andy personally, so Elaine will tell you a little bit about who he was as a person.
We're a cheeky chappy, typical lad, tough as nails, but I think probably had a soft centre. Andrew died early hours of this Tuesday, 5th of April, and the weekend prior to that he had an enormous falling out with his partner. And I just think he got himself into a really dark place that he couldn't get out of. And that's the sad thing, we just think if he talked to anybody, to have snapped him out of it, told him what he was thinking with a wish, he would still be here today.
So a few stats for you to start off with. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under 54. Is anybody surprised by that? Yeah? Sometimes people will say, no. I was astonished when I first heard that, because for suicide to be a bigger killer of men under 54 than something like cancer, for me, is wrong. I see every suicide as a preventable death. We're never going to reach everybody. We certainly want to try and reach as many people as we possibly can. The actual suicide stats don't decrease after the age of 54. It's only at that point that they are offset perhaps by physical illnesses. 75% of all suicides are male. It's about that stigma. I think it's about men not being able to speak out. And over 4,900 men take their own lives every year. And that's just in the UK. So that doesn't take into account global suicides. That doesn't take into account attempted suicides. And that number's just far too high. It's awful. It only tells part of the story as well. It's 12 men every day, 1 man every 2 hours. So I've got Gary along with me here today. By the time myself and Gary arrive, to the time that we leave later on, we've probably lost 1 man somewhere. Statistically, we've lost 1 man to a preventable death, to suicide. That puts it into perspective for me. To put it into a global context, it's estimated that 1 man takes his own life every single minute. And I find that mind-blowing, find it hard to comprehend, to be honest. And each suicide affects around 135 people. So that's an official NHS statistic. Very hard to put a figure on it, but that's not just the immediate family and friends of the person who's died by suicide. That is also a work community, a group of work colleagues. That's also community groups such as yourselves. It has a ripple effect. It has an absolutely devastating effect. It's also those people that are having to pick up the pieces and support somebody who's lost somebody that they care about. They are also impacted. So following Andy's suicide, Luke, our co-founder is Luke Ambler, former professional rugby league player. Now, we don't really play rugby league in these parts. he wanted to do something. It was his brother-in-law. He wanted to do something positive in the local community. So he got together with Elaine, who you've just met, and they decided they were going to arrange a coffee morning. That was the first ever Andy's Man Club session, was a coffee morning in Halifax, their hometown. And it was attended by 9 people. They wanted to get a group of men together, get them talking, get the conversation started, perhaps before things escalated. And they heard things in that room that made them realise that actually there might be a wider problem. There might be more support that we can offer to more people, but also that there was a hesitancy amongst the people in that room to speak. They wanted to talk, they were struggling, but they didn't feel able to. So it was at that point when Luke started the It's OK to Talk campaign. Thought this could go further. This is the internationally recognised sign in diving for I'm OK, or Are You OK? And we've adopted it as our logo. So that was his first ever attempt. That's Luke there. How many likes do you think that generated on Facebook? Anyone want to throw a number at me?
107.
107. It's very specific. Any advance on 107? Half a million. 107 certainly near. The answer was in single figures. This is a man who, with quite a significant public profile, just lost his brother-in-law to suicide, and I think he'd have had more success had he put up a picture of a cat meme, if he'd have put up a photo of his dinner, because people find that kind of content easy to interact with. It's very surface level. There's no level of discomfort. When you're talking about mental health, when you're talking about suicide, there is a level of discomfort. People don't always know what to say, and difficult conversations people often avoid having. It changed. You can see that over 100 million people took part in that campaign ultimately. This was a pivotal moment for us. You should all recognise this gentleman, Ricky Gervais, bit of a Marmite character to some, I guess, but he's got a massive public profile. If somebody with that position, somebody with that profile is prepared to say, I've struggled, I've been through difficult times, which he did, and show that vulnerability. That's a message that so many people can receive, can hear. Hopefully a message to so many men out there that it isn't a weakness to ask for help. You're not a burden. There shouldn't be any shame or embarrassment in doing so. It's people like that make it possible. People will sit up and take notice. Got Anthony Joshua, Josh Warrington, Callum Watkins, 2 professional boxers, professional rugby league player. Again, they've been involved in the campaign. They've spoken out. Times are changing, but these are traditionally seen as masculine sports. And they've potentially got following of young men who can receive that same message. It is okay to talk. There shouldn't be any shame in doing so. So we operate safe, judgment-free talking spaces across England, Scotland and Wales. And there is no booking policy, so it is as simple as just turning up on the night. Find out where your nearest club is, come along. It's free to access. It can be hard to access support, through the health service, through the NHS. But we're trying to remove as many barriers so there will never be a cost attached. We're not here today to raise funds, we're just here to spread awareness. And let people know that we're here and what we do. And there's no referral process, so you don't need to go and see a GP. Therefore, there are no waiting lists. You just come along on the night. And it's open to any man over the age of 18, wanting to talk to like-minded men about anything at all. So I've talked about and mentioned suicide prevention, but we're not a group that is there just for people who might have experienced suicidal ideation. We're there for any man who's struggling with anything at all. We have people come through our doors because they might be isolated, they might be lonely. That's a common theme in society these days. They might be struggling with pressures at work. They might be going through a tough time financially. It could be literally anything at all. I support Leicester City. That is reason enough for me to possibly want to come to one of our clubs. And for those Northampton fans amongst you, I might see some of you tomorrow at the King Power Stadium. Our groups meet every Monday. At 7 o'clock, so it's universal. Don't always know where, but you will always know when those groups meet. We use a wide variety of different venues, so we can't offer them out on bank holidays, a lot of public spaces. We'll try and arrange a walk and talk for the guys, get them together, keep that conversation going. But we usually suggest somebody get there for 6:30. Get yourself settled, be met by one of our volunteer facilitators, talk you through how the night's going to work, get yourself tea, coffee, biscuits, we provide them all free of charge, and then the session kicks off at 7 o'clock, runs through until 9. So what to expect at Andy's Man Club? Don't know, the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that I have a very appropriate appropriate shaped ball with me today. This is our talking ball. So we sit in a circle, we pass the ball around, and when it's your turn to talk, it's like when you've got the ball, it's your turn to talk. There's no pressure on anybody to do anything or to say anything. Sometimes it can take people a while before they feel comfortable enough to do so. Quite an informal approach, but structured at the same time. So we ask 3 questions, which are always the same every single week. The first question is, how has your week been? I could ask any one of you. I won't, but I could, and it should be quite an easy question to answer. Not a blow-by-blow account of everything you watched on telly, just a brief overview of what you, of how it's been, positive or negative. It's designed to be an icebreaker and an easy question to answer. The second one might be a little trickier for somebody, depending on the place that they've come to us in, how they're feeling. So for a dad who hasn't seen his kids in a while, he got to see the kids that week, and that would be a massive positive for him. For somebody with crippling social anxiety, got out of the house and did the shopping that week. So, you know, that's a massive positive for him. And if somebody's struggling, we'll always offer at the fact that they've made that decision to seek that support, to come through the doors, because for some men, that's a massive, massive step. And sometimes they can't see that. That's a huge positive. The third question is the one we will spend the most time on. That's the bulk of the session. So that would be anything you want to get off your chest. So that could be your football team has lost again on a Saturday. That could be that your journey to work was fraught. You know, there's been roadworks outside your house for a deal. It could be something trivial like that that's just irritating you that week. But it could be something that you've sat with for a long, long time, you've struggled to talk about, and sometimes it's easier to speak out in a room of people, I guess relative strangers, people outside your immediate family circle, or you're in a friendship circle. I was in a group not that long ago. A gentleman shared something he'd never told anybody in 40 years, never told his wife, never told his kids, and he was able to do so in that space. You could see the weight just shift. It was visible, and that was a massive, massive thing for him. But we'd never want to finish the session on a heavy note. So we get together, have a break, again, tea, coffee, biscuits, and then we get together for 2 last questions, which are sent to us on a Monday morning. They might be reflective. If you could name any place in the UK that you'd like to go back to, what would it be? Could be banal. If you could ban any vegetable, what would that vegetable be? It might be very light-hearted. What was the last thing that made you laugh out loud? You're going to hear a lot of jokes, you're going to hear a lot of anecdotes, and the whole vibe of the room, the whole atmosphere in the room lifts. So you've shared something heavy and you're going away feeling a lot lighter. And that's what it's all about, and that's why it works. There's 4 things that we never talk about. They are religion and politics. Don't need to explain that. Criminal matters, past or present, because we're a confidential space. So anything said in the room stays in the room, and we don't want to have to be obliged to disclose anything. The easiest thing is we just avoid those conversations. The most important one for me is medication. We're not trained medical professionals, therefore nobody should be taking advice from us. What works for one person might not work for another. So the easiest thing is we don't have those conversations, and then nobody's influenced. There is one additional topic that is banned in Scotland. They are not allowed to talk about football. You can probably work out why. And this is a massive one for me. So when I first started, when I needed that support, I walked through the doors of a club back in 2022, little town called Duddington, if anybody's heard of it. It's on the Northants, Lincolnshire border. And that was 45 minutes from my home in Leicestershire. Had nothing else in between Peterborough in the east of England and Stafford in the West Midlands. That's changed massively. So 2021, we had 50 groups coming out of the second lockdown. We now have 360 groups as of Monday just gone, which is amazing. We have groups now in Northamptonshire. We have groups in Leicestershire. We have groups in Warwickshire, in the West Midlands, Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, Lincolnshire. Things have changed massively. It's sad, because it shows that there is the need, but we already know that. You've seen the statistics earlier. It means that we can reach so many more people than we could before. We've got over 6,900 men using our groups at the minute, every week. So that's 6,900 men potentially getting some support that they weren't getting before, but that's also 6,900 families, I think, that have got somebody going home to them in a better place. The impact is wider than just that stat on that screen there. We have online groups, so for some people it's a bit too daunting to go into a room of people they don't know. Never overthink it, everyone's been there that first time, but it might be more practical for a variety of different reasons. You just send an email to info@andysmanclub.co.uk, they'll send out a Google Meet link, and you just jump on a call. It's exactly the same as the face-to-face groups that I described, except you do have to provide your own tea and coffee. We can't do that remotely. And our why, it's simple. We can't change the world, none of us can, but we can all play our part. We can all try and play our part in opening up those conversations, changing the narrative, and we just want to reach as many people as we possibly can. Prevent other families going through what Luke and Elaine's family went through, what so many families in the UK are going through and continue to go through. It is a real issue in society. This is the real reason, I guess, that we do it. Some of these children would have lost their father had it not been for the support from the charity, and some of these children wouldn't have been born. I've heard enough stories to know that that's categorically true, even if it does sound very blunt. I'd like to point your attention to the young gentleman in the denim there. That's Alfie. Alfie is Luke Ambler's son, and he's also Andy's nephew. He lost his Uncle Andy to suicide when he was 6 years old. That photo was taken just a few weeks later. Alfie has now turned 16. I'm going to play you a little clip of a speech he made at a conference last year about what the charity means to him.
I'm here today to speak about something that changed my life, my family's life, and the life of so many others in ways we never expected. When I was 6 years old, I lost my uncle to suicide. Even now, 9 years later, I still remember the moment I found out. I burst into screaming in tears, desperate to cope with what we told us is true, and that my uncle hadn't died. It wasn't just my uncle, but my best friend, who like a big brother to me. Losing someone who meant that much was heartbreaking and confusing. At that age, I couldn't understand how someone so young, only 23, could be gone. Nothing made sense to me. Andy's Man Club means something different to everyone. For some it's a place that saved a partner's life. For others it gave them strength to speak up when they felt they couldn't. For me it means something deeply personal. It's about losing my uncle. Sadly he didn't speak up, he didn't feel like he could, and because of that he's no longer here. That's why Andy's Man Club matters so much to me, because it's now a place where men can talk without judgment, a place that reminds us it's okay to talk. Recently, I started seeing just how many lives Andy's Man Club is saving. I know when we get to a point where we don't need it anymore, where men feel able to speak freely, and suicide is no longer something that steals people from us. I want to do my part. I want to be someone who encourages others to talk, to open up, because I don't want anyone else to go through what my family did. I will continue to do everything I can to make a difference. I miss you, Uncle Andrew. Thank you, everyone.
So I think Alfie's message there is basically that it means something different to everybody. This is some of the feedback we've had from our attendees, and was drawn to that quote in the top centre. Monday's always the brightness on my horizon. Certainly wasn't always for me. Monday was the first day of the school week, and then it was the first day of the working week, and I dreaded Monday. In fact, my Monday night started as early as Saturday night, because Saturday night was nearly Sunday, and Sunday was a day before Monday. It's one hell of a way to sabotage your own weekend, but I used to do it without fail every single weekend. I love Mondays now. It's a time when we get to see our friends, we get to get together, we get stuff off our chest. It's a really positive way to set ourselves up for the week ahead. And also begs the question that Andy took his own life in the early hours of the Tuesday morning, and had there been something like this available to him the previous night, the Monday night, then maybe things would have been different. It's not a question that we'll ever be able to answer, sadly. So this is usually the point where I tell you why it's me talking to you and how I reach this point. But I have a very special guest with me today, Gary, who's one of our volunteers at our club in Market Harborough, and he's going to tell you a bit about his own story.
Thank you, Chris.
Harborough, and he's going to tell you a bit about his own story.
Thank you, Chris. And
You're going to need that ball.
I am going to need that ball. So, ironically, it's a football-related story. So, can everyone hear me at the back? Is that okay? My good. So, April 1989, I was 20 years old. I was on Easter holidays from university. And I went with my mate John, a school friend, to an FA Cup semi-final. Liverpool playing Nottingham Forest. I was playing at neutral ground, which was Hillsborough. And you all know what happened that day, and that forevermore is known as a Hillsborough Stadium disaster. We were sitting in the Leppings Lane end. I remember the horrendous kind of crowding and crushing going in, and it was like the dogs when you went left, you went right, or you went down the middle of two pillars. And John and I went left. 6 minutes into the game, there was a problem, and as you all know, 96 people were effectively crushed to death in front of us. And an 97th guy died many years later. What happened in the next few hours that day, it's a bit of a blur. But what is hard to comprehend now is there was no mobile phones. It was chaos. And I remember trying to call home from people's houses in Sheffield. People were opening their doors, but the telephone exchanges crashed, you couldn't call home. I remember being back on the coach coming home. Many hours had passed, and Everton were playing Norwich in the other semi-final at the same time. I think it was the days before Sky TV moved the kick-offs, at the same time, 3 o'clock. I remember coming on the M62 on a coach which had lots of empty seats. Now I don't know, to this day whether some of that coach passed away or people were left behind in Sheffield or whatever, but as the Everton coach, which had come from where they were playing the Villa Park, I think, as the coach passed us, everyone was standing against the window staring at us, like we were a kind of museum exhibit. I remember that vividly, but what I particularly remember is we got off the coach at Picton Clock in Liverpool. It was 8 o'clock, so 5 hours had passed. By that point, my mum and dad knew that 96 people had died, and I hadn't called home. And I went to a pub as I got off the coach, and I was one of those phones in a pub bar. You only used for 50p and it counted down seconds. I had about 20 seconds to talk. And this is a bit, I'll choke. Because I haven't done it yet without joking, so bear with me. So my mum answered, and hello, and I said, hi mum, and she went, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'll be home in 20 minutes. And I got the bus home. John and I parted ways on separate buses, and we never spoke again. We still haven't. And that conversation of 20 seconds is the first time I spoke, it's the last time I spoke about Hillsborough for 35 years. Never spoke to mum and dad or sister about it, and I don't think I ever will, because we closed it down. And at that time, that's what Chris said, guys didn't talk. I didn't know what dealing with it was, I didn't know what help was. And I went back to university on Monday to see my mates, and I got on with my life, because I was lucky. People now say I'm technically a survivor, but I just thought I was lucky. I got on with my life, and I thought I was doing okay. What I did do was throw myself into football. So I then travelled everywhere. I woke up on Christmas on 22nd December in Qatar at 5 a.m. to watch a match in Qatar, Liverpool playing, and stayed one night and flew back again. Almost like I had a duty to go because others couldn't. And that I think helped me, but I was clearly in denial, I didn't know it. 2022, my son and I went to the Champions League final in Liverpool against Real Madrid in Paris. My son at that time was a similar age to the age I was at Hillsborough. And as you all know, and it's still an ongoing court case, there was real problems that day which nearly caused a similar disaster to happen. We were crushed in an underpass. We were tear gassed outside the ground. There was almost a stampede. And after the match, there was gangs of youths outside trying to stab people as they went to the tube station. I felt responsible for my son, and I blamed myself for him being there. He wanted to be there. He was 20 odd years old, but I had taken him to. I was one of the few people in the world who knew how dangerous a football match was, and I put him in that situation. We got out of Paris, and my problem started from the next day. And for about 18 months, 2 years, I spiraled. I've filled with flashbacks. I still blame myself for my son's situation. And I started being frightened of anything. I wouldn't be here. If I was meeting one person in a pub, I'd do that. Anything over 4 people was a danger. I didn't go anywhere. I made up stories for not being able to attend events at work. It got worse and worse and worse until I was completely isolated, lonely, and a girl at work, a friend of mine, who'd always said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, fine, yeah, fine." You know, "Why are you coming tonight?" "Oh, you know, my wife's not well, I'm really." She said, "Are you okay?" And I suddenly said, "No, I'm not," and I kind of broke down. That led me to counselling. The doctor, counselling, and that was the next time I spoke about Hillsborough. The first time in 2024 I'd ever spoken about it. I broke it down piece by piece, 15 minutes every day, to put it back in my brain in a way that made me realise it wasn't my fault. And what you have to remember, and you will remember this, with the age of the people in this room, that 27 years after Hillsborough, the official verdict was accidental death, and somehow Liverpool fans had caused those deaths. And I was one of them. So, although I knew I wasn't responsible, apparently I was, and it must have been in my head, because for the first time in 2024, I told myself I did nothing wrong. And in Paris in 2022, I just took my son to a football match, and it wasn't my fault either. Did my counselling, was able to talk about it, and as part of talking, andymanclub was mentioned to me, and I went to London in March last year in Northampton. Felt very comfortable, and a few weeks in, told this story to a group of strangers, and it just helped form some good friendships. Did my facilitator training 6 months later, and then in November last year, a few of us set up the Market Harbour Club, which is going really well. And the end of the story is, here I am talking to you guys about a topic that I can do relatively comfortably now. But hey, if my mum even tried to mention it, and she wouldn't, I still close down, because it's raw somewhere. So that is my story. Thank you.
Never throw a ball at me, I've got no coordination, I'm liable to drop it in front of everybody. Thank you so much, Gary. It takes a lot of courage to speak out and to open up, but well done, mate. Going to play another video now, a short video with a few more stories. Just want to preface the next one. One of the guys does use the term commit suicide. It's a term we try and avoid. If you've been bereaved by suicide, it can cause a bit of upset. It does refer to a time when the act of suicide is a criminal offence in the UK. Hasn't been since 1961 when it's decriminalised. Just thought I need to say that before we play this next clip.
His anxieties caught my life. Started about 10 years ago. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought the world would go without me. I thought that maybe if I was to take my own life, I could do with my child. But I was very suicidal at the time. As a child, I was getting bullied. And nothing else. I talk about the problems I went through as a child. I didn't want to. My anxiety started around the passing of my father in 2013. Affected them in day-to-day life, affected them in job, affected relationships. I didn't talk to my friends or family about the problems that were going on. So the easiest thing for me was to not be here. It was a Sunday night, I think it was, and I didn't want to be here. I was planning that night to do something. Thoughts going through my mind were, I want to be judged by people, you know, real bad thoughts about getting out of this life. My worries and anxieties probably started a long time ago, but the most recent was last year because of committing suicide. It was very hard to discuss my problems at that moment in time as I couldn't even put a sentence together. I felt very alone. I had a lot of people around me, and a lot of people cared, but just something instinctively just wouldn't open up. I never spoke about it anyway. The problems affected me all my life. There's a stigma attached to around how a man should appear and what you should say is an ideal view of a man. And I think people need to break the cycle of that and just not conform to that. I know a lot of men that have struggled generally, especially in the UK, I think not enough men talk about the problems. The best step towards helping myself was trying to manage my own. The only time when I first spoke about the problems was when I first went to Andy Manclub. I first stopped helping through manage my problems. Saved my life. My name's Luke Campbell and I'm the founder of andymanclub. I believe male mental health in our country has for a long time now been stigmatised. Without three stigmas: weakness, burden and embarrassment. I think that's a lot of the reason why people don't speak. They feel weak to speak. They feel like the burden of us. We're the last country out in the planet. They feel they're embarrassed to give any more country away. So anyone out there watching this, it's not weak to talk. It's not weak to ask for help. Steps that I've taken to resolve the issues. I've started talking a lot more to people. Reports are talking about how you feel is phenomenal. Talking has really opened me up to people, my family, my friends, to take my life back. I'm happier than I have been in my entire life. No matter what, I talk about everything now. I won't keep anything at all. If I'm going to give any advice, it's talk to whether it may be loved ones, professionals, your friends. And if you don't have any friends, reach out. You know, if you are willing to reach out, people are willing to help. Get a guy who will help you up, give people hope, give people a lifeline. That's what andymanclub's all about. My advice to anyone out there is that you will get through this. At times you may think that there is no other way out, that relationship breakdown, that debt you're in, or whatever issue you're struggling with, you can't get through that, but trust me, you can. I've dealt with enough people and know how that cloud will pass. A roller coaster where it seems like you're going down, will take a turn and get back up. You just gotta look up and know that the right times are coming, and I guarantee, reach out, you'll get talk.
On the home straight, guys, a lot of what we do is just about getting word out there, just trying to make people as aware as possible that we are there for them. We've got some amazing partners in logistics, GXO Bookers. You'll see some wrap vehicles up there. There are so many now. We've had bin lorries wrapped by councils. It's fantastic. We had a World Cup campaign recently. It was very hard hitting. Every 9 minutes England is a man down, but it's designed to have that. It's designed to make people think. A lot of people reached out on the back of that. Network Rail have been amazing. We have trains wrapped now. That one bottom right is on the Trans-Pennine Express. Even if somebody doesn't know what that is okay to talk means, they might look it up. If that message might reach that one man who needs to hear it and needs that support. You go to any major national train station, you'll see one of our ads every 4 minutes. I know it works. When I was a volunteer, I used to ask the guys coming to the club, the new attendees, how did you find out about us? On the opening night of our club in Wigston, Leicestershire, one gentleman arrived because he'd seen it visiting his daughter at Bristol train station and looked us up, found out that we're opening a club on his doorstep the following week. So just about getting that message out, making people aware. And sport's a fantastic way in which we can do that. So we have partnerships with the World of Darts, the Great Runs, so many good partnerships and relationships with football clubs. Manchester United and Manchester City both host a club at their home grounds, Old Trafford and the Etihad. Don't know how well those two groups get along with each other, but they both exist. We've got the same arrangement at clubs like Burnley and Blackburn, Leeds, Sunderland, Cardiff, to name but a few. Wasn't universally popular when I announced this when I came in. We have a partnership with Aston Villa Football Club. I believe there is a Birmingham fan amongst you. But they've been amazing. You know, every Premier League home game is part of the Premier League Suicide Prevention Project. We've got a gazebo outside the Holt End. 40,000 people are at Villa Park every week. And they're having conversations with people on a weekly basis, every 2 weeks. That's amazing. And it's just about that message reaching one person at the end of the day. We reach more than that. How many of you are huge Emmerdale fans? You look like a potential Emmerdale audience. No. I've never watched an episode in my life. I've got no intentions of doing so, but I'm told a lot of people do. So you'll see a wristband scattered around, lots of wristbands scattered around. I've got more to leave to some of the guys here at the club who aren't present. Please pass that along to somebody. If you think somebody might need that and it might benefit from it, pass it along to them. One wristband can go a very long way. We had a volunteer handing them out at the Leeds Festival. Didn't think too much about the encounter, but a lady asked for one, took it away, and it turns out she was one of the executive producers of Emmerdale. She called our head of clubs the following. I did some research, called up head of clubs the following day. It led to a 6-week storyline where I'm reliably informed that gentleman's Paddy. He was feeling suicidal. He got support from a friend who took him to an Andy's Man Club. We actually filmed a mock session with some of our volunteers and staff. So it was, the feedback was brilliant, and it was being into so many homes, perhaps not any of your homes, but a lot of homes out there. And again, it's about that message, just reaching one person. And a shout out to the women who are actually our biggest supporters. We are a male-only space. Because of that stigma, because of those statistics we talked about, we couldn't do it without the support of the women out there, because they are the ones that are banging the drum for us. They're our biggest supporters. They're the ones that are trying to encourage their loved ones to seek support, to speak out. It might be a husband, it might be a partner, it might be a father, it might be a son, a brother, a friend. They're the ones that want to get them, they want that support for them. And I've had so many conversations personally when we've done awareness stands with somebody's wife while he stood behind the tree. He doesn't want to be seen talking to us. The stigma is really that much sometimes. So, there is a true story in the Northwest. Lady was adamant, wife was adamant, her husband needed to go to his local club. He was adamant that he was not going to go to his local club. She won. But she changed tack. She took him out for dinner, 7 o'clock on a Monday night. It wasn't dinner at all, it was Andy's Man Club. She told him to get out of the car, we've got 2 hours and I'll be back to pick you up. That man's now a volunteer. He's turned his life around. He's in a much happier place, and it just goes to show he needed that support, he needed that push. And I've heard some of these stories firsthand about how the charity has saved lives, continues to do so. Some of the things that people do to give back are incredible as well. Ultra marathons, Ironman challenges. I struggle with walking football, so I certainly won't be undertaking any of those, but I'm always intrigued by the fact that one man felt so moved that he went on a trek from Wigan to the Philippines. Never thought about the logistics of that, but it's certainly a trek and a half. We won awards. The National Volunteer Award, National Diversity Award, the Yorkshire Choice Awards, but it's not about that. It's about the reward, seeing somebody come to us at a low ebb, seeing their progress week after week, and sometimes it's like talking to a completely different person. Gary will have similar examples who've seen this himself. It can be, all people need is that conversation, and seeing it is the most rewarding thing I have been privileged to witness. So it's simple. Go to www.andymanclub.co.uk, plug in your town postcode, give you a list of all the nearest clubs. The nearest one to here is of course in Northampton, Holiday Inn and Bedford Road, but we are opening new clubs all the time. We always striving to do that. There are online sessions as well available by email info@andymanclub.co.uk. But it isn't just a case of us coming here today to tell you to come to our clubs. You don't need to do that, and practically it isn't possible for everybody. It is, however, about how important it is to talk. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're struggling with anything in your life, talk to somebody, reach out to somebody. It might be a loved one, it might be the person sat next to you right now. You'd be amazed at the kindness of strangers. If they know that you're struggling, there is often a will to want to help and want to support. Also, when you see each other next time, I think Gary alluded to it at one point. Ask when you have these encounters, you ask how you ask regularly, how are you? And your answer is usually, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Until the day you didn't. Sometimes people aren't all right. It's a stock answer. It's a transactional exchange. You think somebody might not be all right. You've got doubts that they're all right. Ask them out. Ask them again. Change tack. How are you really? You might find you get a completely different answer, and that might be the most important conversation that they ever have. So thank you ever so much for listening. I know this is a new one for you. It's quite different for you to come in and sit and listen to people like us, but really do appreciate it. If anybody's got any questions at all, please feel free to ask either now, or you can come and see us afterwards. Cheers guys, thank you.
Chris, Gary, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the information and leaflets and everything else you're going to leave. For everybody's here, you please complete the feedback form for us as part of the funding we have to do all this work. Then we have 2 or 3 questions. We just take a few minutes just to answer those for us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you next one. Thank you.